Another area of concern, of course, has been Tibet. And joining us now from London, British Tibetan Pemba, who went to Beijing to study Chinese and to teach English, but was deported just a few weeks ago for allegedly committing crimes against the Chinese state. Deshan, very good to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about what happened to you on the 8th of July.
Yes, on the 8th of July, I woke up. I thought it was an ordinary morning. I was on my way to my Chinese class. And when I left my flat that morning, there were 7 or 8 security officials waiting for me. And they said they had something that they needed to discuss with me, took me back into my flat. And then they took away my mobile phones and they took away my passport, and then said that I'd broken the law and that I had to leave immediately. And a few hours later, I found myself on a plane back to London.
With no warning and no real reason given?
Absolutely no warning. When I asked them what I had done wrong, they said that I had broken the law and that I ought to know myself what it was that I had done wrong. So I really didn't receive any more sort of concrete reasons than that.
Had you been involved in pro-Tibetan movements or demonstrations that would have alerted their interest?
I really had the sense that I was being monitored. I was definitely under surveillance, especially this year since the unrest started in Tibet. I came to England on holiday in March, and then when I went back in April, they stopped me at the airport and they asked me many questions. I hadn't been involved in organizing any demonstrations or been involved in any sort of illegal activities or anything like that, but because I am Tibetan and I was born in England and I'm living in Beijing, I think they must have just been extremely nervous about what might happen or what could happen. So the fact that I hadn't actually done anything wrong or anything that I could see as being wrong, but I think that was enough for them to really be suspicious.
Do you sense that it was linked very much to the upcoming Olympic Games?
Absolutely. In my mind, I can't really separate these events that have happened in the last few months. Any sort of Tibetan has been under suspicion in Tibet, in all the Tibetans living in Beijing, they're all under suspicion. And anyone who was living in Beijing the last few months, I'm talking about foreigners, Chinese people, everybody could see that there was a huge security crackdown taking place. It was completely obvious to everybody. So I think that my deportation had something to do with the security crackdown and their increased nervousness about Tibet and these kinds of issues.
Where do you stand now in returning to either your homeland of Tibet or coming back into the rest of China? What happens to you? Are you allowed back or not?
Well, they told me just as I was about to board the plane before I was deported, they told me that I couldn't come back for 5 years. I'm still waiting for a deportation notice, any kind of paper which tells me exactly what I did wrong, which laws I broke, and which tells me exactly when I can return again. I really hope I can go back. For the most part, I enjoyed living in Beijing, but I'll have to see if this 5-year ban is really true or not. At the moment, I haven't seen it in writing anywhere.
And you obviously sense that you weren't alone in having your own personal rights curtailed.
Absolutely not. Actually, in a way, I think I was quite fortunate. I mean, I have a British passport, so I was put on a plane within a matter of hours. Tibetans who live in Beijing, Tibetans in Tibet, anybody who was under the slightest kind of suspicion, they would be dealt with really very severely. I had Tibetan friends in Beijing who suddenly would just go missing from one day to the next, and we wouldn't know what happened to them. So in a way, in my case, it could have been a lot worse. I'm very worried about Tibetans in Tibet, and I'm very worried about my friends in Beijing.
Tibetan Pemba, thank you very much for telling your story to us on Sky News. Well, let's